Hey YouTube, this is Adrian22 coming at you with another deck profile. This is Sargent's anti-meta Seismitoad deck. Unfortunately, this will be the last video with Sargent for a little while. So let's go ahead and get on into this, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
Hey YouTube, what's going on? Like Adrian said, I'm going to go ahead and show you my new Seismitoad anti-meta deck. I designed this deck to counter the meta that we're seeing in locals, and a lot of the meta we're seeing in local is big ability decks, big fighting decks, and a lot of Landorus. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So to start off, I have 3 Seismitoads. That's just to start us off. You have that item lock, you have that water for weakness on fire and Landorus, and then if need be, we'll go ahead and go into the second attack a little bit later on. But so we're gonna start with 3 Seismitoads, and then go into 2 Mewtwo's. The Mewtwo's are to counter fighting because we're seeing a lot of Lucario, a lot of Machamp, and they're also to counter other Mewtwo's we're seeing with fairies. And they're just a really good generic. You attach a DC on it, you're doing 40 damage plus whatever energy they have on it, just to get that damage out of the way. And then next we run a 2-2 line of Trubbish and Garbodor. Now, in theory, you do want to use the Trubbish that has the 1 retreat, but I'm a little lazy and I don't have those, so I just use the one with 2. But you do want to use the Trubbish with the 1 retreat. It does have 10 less HP, but your Trubbish should almost never be on the front lines. Neither should your Garbodor. And then after that, I run a 2-2 line of Raichu, and the reason why I do that is to counter the big things we're seeing in this meta, which is things like Evital, Lugia, Tornadus, and if nothing else, with the band on it and you don't have your Garbodor up, you can one-shot a Pyro rather easily with a full bench. I do like the Raichu to DC, and it's really a strong attacker. Now that does it for the Pokemon line. Now we're going to go into the supporter line. I run 2 Skyless, and the reason why I run the Skyless is that way I can get a tool I need for the Garbodor, or I run Hypnotoxic Laser, so that's how me get the Hypno out, or the Verbank, or if nothing else, it lets me get out another Juniper, so that way I can extend my draw the next turn. I run 2 Pokemon fan clubs. These are really good early game. Like, let's say you start wrong with a Trubbish, or you just have a Seismitoad out. Getting one of these early lets you get out that Trubbish to start off that Garbodor, or that Pikachu, or that Mewtwo, or even another Seismitoad. I really do like Pokemon fan club since we are losing level ball. I really like Pokemon fan club. And then of course I run 4 Junipers. That's just for the consistency of the Junipers. The reason I just run 4 is because, you know, sometimes I wish, when I used to run 3, sometimes I wish I had one last one to go, and I just run those 4 to make sure I consistently draw into a Juniper. Next I run 2 Lissandras. The Lissandras are just for the generic, hey, pull up that Pokemon, I want to one-shot it, or if nothing else, it helps me stall. It's a really, Lissandra right now, as we said earlier in other videos, it's a great offensive and a great defensive card that we're seeing since Flashfire. I run a 1 of Colress, that's just for a late game tech. Since I run Raichus, I generally have a really big bench with a Garbodor on it, and then hopefully the opponent has a big bench, that way if I need to I can Colress for 8 instead of ditching my entire hand. Next I run 2 Gestus. You know, this card did fall out for a little bit, but I am starting to see now that I'm item locking people with Seismitoad, a couple turns into that, let's say if I can get 4 or 5 straight turns of item locking, you know, I played on that Gestus, I've had it as much as a 5 items go back into the deck, and then I can draw. And the nice thing is that once you get rid of those items, then you're free to switch off your Seismitoad and tackle something else, because you know what's in their hand, and you don't have to fear any items. And then lastly, I run 3 Ends. Ends are just for that early game. If I don't want to Juniper my hand away, or if I really think my opponent got something good, I can just play down that end. Or if my opponent's ahead of me in prizes, I can play those ends, bring them down to 1, and I go to 2 or go to 3. That way the game keeps going. So that'll do it for the support line. Next is the item line. I run 4 Hypnos, and the 4 Hypnos are for the consistency of the Hypnos, because this deck does run Verbank. It does help you get that Toxic Stall out, because if you have the Garbodor up that stops Keldeo, and you have them item locked, there's not a whole lot they can do to get rid of that poison besides retreating it. Then if you have them retreat, then that means they lose that energy, which is something you want to do, because there's not a lot of decks right now that have good energy revival. They don't have a lot of good energy recycle. I run a 1 of Letter just in case I need to get another water energy out of my deck, or I just need some energy to start the game with. I run 2 switches since you are running with some pretty hefty dudes like Seismitoad and Garbodor. These switches do come in handy if you get poisoned, or let's say you start bad and you just got to get that guy out of the way. Next I run 3 Ultra Balls. I use 3 Ultra Balls because that's just for the consistency of getting the Garbodor, getting the Mewtwo, getting the Seismitoad, getting the Raichu. Since we're losing Heavy Ball and Level Ball, which would make this deck good as well. You know, I'm just running these Ultra Balls just so that way I can pull up and get any Pokemon I need to for my deck. I run 3 Float Stones. The reason why I use 3 Float Stones is for Seismitoad and Garbodor. Float Stone on a Garbodor is an amazing item. That means that, you know, let's say they knock out your Pokemon and you have a Float Stone on that Garbodor, you always have a free retreat off you know, that next turn. That way you can always improve your turn from there. You're not stuck with a Pokemon that has a lot of retreat. Next, I run a 1 Bangle, and that's for the Raichu, and I run a 2 Muscle Band. I run the Bangle, that's because down here we do see a lot of Lugia and Yveltal, so I do love putting that Bangle on that Raichu to help me accelerate that one-shot on the Lugias and Yveltal, since I do see a lot of them at my locals. And of course, the tools will change depending on what you see at your locals or what you see at your own regionals, but I like running that Bangle on that Raichu just for that consistency. Now I am running a run of Super Rod, and this is rotating, so I would recommend maybe a Sacred Ash, but I do like the Super Rod because you get any combination of basic energy and Pokemon. But since we are losing it here in the next couple weeks, but I won't be here for the rotation, I'm just using the Super Rod because I still can. Lastly, I have a computer search. Now you will notice that this is a base set computer search. I don't have the actual A-spec computer search, but my league does allow me to use this just as an A-spec, so I do have computer search in this because let's say you start bad, you can Skylo for the computer search to get that DC to really start that item lock or start doing some damage on Mewtwo. And then lastly, I use 2 Verbanks, and as you see here, I am using the Championship Edition. Because I didn't have the normal edition of Verbanks, but my locals does allow us to use the championship version of cards. The Verbanks just for the Hypnos and for a counter stadium, for fairies, or for the new fighting gyms we're seeing lately. And then lastly, I am running 7 Waters. That's just for the Grenade Hammer on Seismitoad. That way you want to just use base Waters. If you need to, you can power it up with Waters. And then lastly, for energy, I am running 4 DCs. If I could run more, I would run more, but sadly I cannot. So you want to run those 4 DCs just to power up everything quickly. The main combo of the deck is that you want to get up that Garbodor to cancel all abilities, poison their Pokemon, and then hit them in the face with that Seismitoad, prevent them from using items, and then just kind of take it from there. If they have Yveltal, Lugia, Tornadus, bring up the Raichu. If they have Deoxys, you know, things that are weak to Psychic, bring up your Mewtwo. Otherwise, you know, just slowly damage everything. And it's a really good anti-meta deck that I just made last week. And another person here, The Future Online, who we have mentioned in other videos, he also is running this deck at the moment as well. So that's really all I have to say about the deck at this time.
All right, well, YouTube, before we check out here, I just want to let you guys know, unfortunately, Sargent is leaving, but not to worry. The Future Online and I are actually going to continue our competitive deck building guide as soon as we get a chance, so you guys can look forward to that on both of our channels, as well as we will have other guest speakers and stuff like that. But we're going to keep that going for you guys, as well as more deck profiles and stuff like that. Well, thanks you two for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. Peace out.